Jeff?
I mean, highlighting. I don't know much about this event tomorrow, so I'm kind of curious as to what they're going to be.
That doesn't necessarily have anything to do with Solana.
Okay.
That's to be determined. I mean, they're going to launch perpetuals and some other stuff is what people are saying, but we don't know if that's going to be about Solana. So, well, then I guess I'll just pick something real quick. Let's start with Visa. So Visa introduces stablecoin settlement for U.S. banks on Solana. So this is what I know, Steve-O, I know you agree with me on this, and I'll kick it over to you after I have my little bit here. So this is what I've been saying why I sold all my XRP is as soon as Ripple minted RLUSD, a stablecoin, I saw the writing on the wall. And then we saw the stablecoin legislation in the Genius Act. Cross-border payments and remittances is going to be done with stablecoins. No bank, no institution wants to use a volatile asset. And this is yet another example. They have USDC on Solana. And so there is multiple places that banks and institutions and retail can go. I can send any one of these gentlemen USDC, USDE, any stablecoin instantly using my phone right now on air. It would be there in a couple of seconds. So there is no need for XRP, for that use case. And I think that if you pay attention, you would see that Ripple thinks that as well. But I won't get into the grass on that. Steve-O, what are your thoughts on this one?
Super bullish. How can you not be? Stable coins are going to be our future. Solana has a ton of USDC market cap. Again, if you look at DeFi Llama, you look at RWA.XYZ, tons and tons of stablecoin volume and market cap on Solana through Visa, Visa, PayPal, Cash App, a couple other things. Super bullish.
No,
I don't care. Like what you said before, I couldn't care less what the price is. That's when it dropped to $8. I backed the truck up and bought a shitload of Solana.
I did the same thing when FTX collapsed and Solana took a dump. I was somewhat new to crypto, but I was like, that's quite the dip. And the fundamentals didn't change. There was just FUD. There was a bunch of FUD. Solana wasn't going anywhere. I think I bought it $20. I bought like $4 or $5 grand worth at $20. And then I think I sold, I wanted to say when it got back up to $100, I sold. But I don't quote me on that. But yeah, I don't have massive bags of Solana. It's not, one of my top holds, but it's definitely something that you can't fade. I mean, it is, right behind Ethereum. I would say that it's probably the 700-pound gorilla.
Yeah, agreed.
What about the uptime? That's one thing I have is the network.
Okay.
I remember, when's the last time they had their outage?
Steve-O's in short circuit.
19, 20 months. And I wanted to address that because that's one of the things I research. Do your own research. I actually did my own research. So at the time when I looked it up, I found out Solana was running on one validator client, kind of sort of like one server. So it was centralized at the time. Okay. But at the time they were working on another validator client. So right now, as we speak, they have 3 validator clients. I mean, the original one can completely go to toes and they're good to go with 2 other validator clients. And the best one, the most secure, just went mainnet recently, called Fire Dancer. So I highly recommend everyone Google Fire Dancer. DDoS attacks, people like to attack the champ, right? Everyone wants to take that belt away from the champ. So you hear a lot of Solana FUD. And so the FUD going on right now, there's a couple different things. One is Solana has just experienced the 3rd or 4th largest DDoS attack. More than AWS server, right up there almost with Google Cloud, and they survived it just fine. Not a single hiccup, not an outage, not anything. And it just battle hardens the network. Bring it on, tons and tons of volume. tested by fire. And we all hope and want and think that there's going to be a ton of volume and transactions, and on blockchains, they're not all going to be able to handle the volume. Some of the ones that don't have total block space and all that, like Solana does, are really going to struggle if they actually bring on board the volume that they want to one day.
Well, let's address that, because I think a lot of that is going to be mitigated. And, kind of why I wanted to do this episode and why we did our last episode on this topic is I'm noticing that all of these different chains, like, the good solid chains like Ethereum, Base Network, Solana, a lot of these are starting optimism. Doesn't get a lot of attention, but it's the underlying for a lot of protocols. But they are all starting to become interoperable. They're all building bridges between each other so that they can communicate, move value, move data. And so I don't think that, it's going to be one to rule, that just blow, everything else goes away and there's going to be, one project that does it all. I think it's going to be different chains are going to specialize in different aspects of blockchain, and then they're just going to be interoperable. It's kind of like that Ready Player One movie, with it was all about gaming and stuff, but basically it was like all the different games were connected to where you could take your stuff, your guns and your armor from one and take it to another. And I kind of see that as how blockchain is going to be. Is you're going to have RWAs maybe over on Plume, maybe. Then you're going to have Ondo that's going to be tokenizing and onboarding RWAs onto Solana and over on Ethereum and on Base Network. And then somebody that bought something on a protocol on Base Network, maybe they want to use it in DeFi on Solana, and so they're going to be able to seamlessly click, select that they want to lend it out on a Solana protocol, even though it was residing on Base. And it's just going to be seamless. We're not going to have to bridge. We're not going to have to swap. We're not going to, have to find a wrapped version of something. It's just going to be, seamless. So, I mean, are you seeing that, Steve-O? I mean, Jeff, either one of you?
Go ahead, Jeff.
I mean, that sounds like, I mean, that would make the whole thing work seamless and much better. Because like you said, some of these platforms or networks aren't necessarily capable of onboarding like tokenized assets or RWAs, or they don't have the functionality or compliance built in like some chains are. And then, you have Ondo onboarding these assets and making sure that they're compliant and functional, and then you can take it somewhere else. Mm-hmm. That would be ideal. And I've talked about that with gaming years ago, how, with some friends of mine who are into RuneScape and all the other stuff, it's like being able to take your in-game assets to other areas, other games or whatnot would just be great because you have true ownership. And a lot of these games now you can't, like, you pay for whatever, a skin, a sword, and you don't.
Yeah. And then, once that game is dead, then you just lose all that. So no, and that's when I first saw NFTs, even before DeFi, when I was just looking at cartoon monkeys and stuff like that. Once I learned what an actual NFT was, I was like, this is cool, because that's exactly what it can do in games. Is if you use real money, or you buy a gun or a skin or something like that, you actually own it. And if you wanted to take it from one game over to another game, then you can. If there's a new Call of Duty that comes out, you could keep all your old stuff that you won or bought on previous versions of the game and bring it to the new game. So, there's a lot of different ways this can go. But short term, at least, I just see all eyes and all attention and all money looking at DeFi and RWAs.
Hello?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. A little bit of a hiccup there.
No. I stopped talking because I want to hear what you guys think about that.
So I forget who said it, but he put it very well. I think when the day comes when crypto blockchains are mainstream, users won't even realize that they're using it. I don't know how that's going to look like exactly, but if I go on anything, a game, a NFT website, a predictions market, hey Deadwood, what's going on, brother? You gotta click on your wallet to purchase the NFT to make your bet on Polymarket. And right now, as we speak, so like Polymarket, you can use USDC on Polygon. Different games are just, it depends on the protocol, I think. And I think it depends on the platform, whether they want it to be multi-chain or not. And we're not there yet. It's just, we're so siloed. How it's going to be all super interoperable, I don't know how that's going to work or look. We're far from it. I think we're years from it. Right now, from a pure financial perspective, like investment perspective, I love the phrase winner takes most. So right now it's Ethereum and Solana are taking most, and everybody else is fighting for breadcrumbs. And institutions, as more and more things want to adopt blockchains and crypto into their platform, they're going to go where the liquidity is, where the volume is. And that's why just more and more and more projects, institutions are looking at Ethereum and Solana because they value security and liquidity more than anything else. And I think it's going to be really, really hard. I'm not saying impossible, but it's going to be really, really harder for some of the smaller chains to ever compete and become successful. I don't know. I don't know. It's interesting. I'm fascinated by it.
I kind of wonder if some of the smaller chains, if they're just going to be more niche, more specialized, like Plume. Plume is pretty much geared specifically for RWAs and DeFi. I mean, with its compliance and its USDC backed, stablecoin, just everything that it's doing is geared towards financial compliance. They're not looking at gaming. They're not looking at any other use cases. Canton Network, another one, very laser focused on being the network of networks, connecting siloed networks for finance. I think it's going to be these niche projects that are going to connect to these more robust, more diverse, like Solana, Ethereum, Base, layer ones that, kind of branch out, into these smaller genres. That's just what I'm seeing so far.
Maybe, but Mike, I'm sure you've heard of Mr. Wonderful on Shark Tank, right?
Yeah.
He hates to invest in niche projects, and here's why. If I have my Solana wallet open and I can spend Solana on DeFi and RWA stuff already, along with my gaming, along with my AI, and then I find a new RWA project, why would I even bother opening up a Canton wallet, going through the shenanigans when I can just do it all on Solana? Just plain devil's advocate. I could be wrong.
Well, you wouldn't open a Canton wallet because that's not the use case of Canton. Canton, again, it connects institutions. So they have their own individual siloed network that's private.
Gotcha.
And, it connects those. So, I mean,
Canton was a bad example then. Say, like, why would I take the time to open up an Avalanche wallet or a Cosmos wallet or a Cardano wallet where I'm already established? I already comfortable with my Solana wallet. I have a little bit of Sol in there.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's that's why I think that it will be that type of architecture is because those projects, like I'll use Plume as an example because it's kind of right there. I'm watching it all the time, but I think it's going to be to where you can open your Solana wallet and see, and there's already news that came out where a Nest protocol is now Solana is using, and that was built on Plume Network. So that you're starting to see on Plume Network, there is a bridge on Morpho and Glider that connects
cool.
Base network with Plume. So
That'd be cool.
I'm starting to notice these. And so my point is what not to say that one day you open your Solana wallet and you can invest on Plume Network from your Solana wallet.
That would be cool.
It's like the Aerodrome update. You know, you're going to be able to launch DeFi pools from all these different networks just from Aerodrome, because you have access to all these liquidity pools, and it's going to bring all of that TVL together and just that cross-chain liquidity. You know, it's not going to be fragmented. And yeah, like if you could open your Solana wallet and just go to whatever network, you know, seamlessly. That way you don't have to bridge and do all that jumping through hoops.
Well, and that's why I'm so bullish on Coinbase and the Base network, because you know I see as of right now Coinbase with what they're about to launch tomorrow, and all the the new Base app, the new Aerodrome. They're I keep saying this, and I'm going to keep saying it. They're removing the barriers to entry for people who don't understand crypto, the technology, wallets and things like that. So it's going to allow grandmas and grandpas and people that don't understand this to simply deposit dirty fiat onto Coinbase, click one or two buttons. It's going to do all the swaps. It's going to do all the bridging seamlessly for them behind the scenes, just like going on Microsoft and double clicking on an icon, basically, behind the scenes generates a whole line of code that executes something, a process. It's going to be the same thing. They'll be able to go on to Coinbase, invest in something on the Solana network, and just basically click and done. It's going to take care of all of it for them. So that's the future. If there is going to be a future, which I think there is, for crypto and for DeFi and RWAs, and for this to work, it has to be that simple and that easy. We're just way early, and people don't understand how early we are.
Very early. I mean, my kids, they want nothing to do with it. They're playing on Xbox right now, and I try and introduce them to some crypto games. They're like, "That's lame, Dad." And I'll mention some meme coin or something, like fart coin, and they might giggle for a second and be like, "Yeah, that's lame, Dad." And I'll talk to my coworkers at work. We're super early, and it's just people don't know what they don't know, right? They don't understand how cheap it is, how much more money you can make in crypto DeFi than at the bank. Anytime I explain crypto DeFi to my buddies at work, they're like, no way you can make more than 6% yield interest. I'm like, bro, way more than, but it's risky. It's risky, but if you know what you're doing, like, I can help you and you can make way more. Well, I just don't know, because it's a cultural mindset. It's a change. It's something they don't know. It's the fear of the unknown. And
look, crypto, Steve-O, me and you, at the beginning of this, you were talking about your buddy came to you, told you about Bitcoin, and you laughed at him, and you were like, that sounds like something that I said. That sounds like something that dorks, trade online while they're sitting in their mom's basement with Cheeto fingers. But
it's a double-edged sword, and I know we don't have enough time to really get into it. It could be a bad thing way down the road, but I keep on preaching this. BlackRock with Biddle, with Securitize, with Visa, they want to make money just as much as we do. When they turn on the advertising button and you start to see commercials,